These are notes on solving one-step inequalities with either multiplication or division. Anything that I write on the board needs to go into your notes. The first example we're going to look at is a divided by 2 is less than 4. Now it may help to write it as a fraction. A divided by 2 is less than 4. If we write it like that, then we can easily show that the inverse operation would be to multiply by 2 on each side. So if we need to, we can make that 2 over 1. 2 divided by 2 is 1, so we get 1a is less than 8. So we're going to put 8 in the middle of your number line. It's okay if you want to skip spaces since we have room to. So we'll have 8, 9, 10, and then going the other direction, 7, 6. Okay, this is less than, so we need an open circle at 8 going down to the smaller numbers. All right, number 2, I want you to rewrite it so you have plenty of room to solve it. So we have n divided by 7 is greater than or equal to negative 1. So we're going to multiply by positive 7 on each side. Okay, 7 divided by 7 is 1, so we get 1n is greater than or equal to negative 7. And I multiplied by a positive, so I don't need to worry about flipping any of the signs. So I have negative 7, we'll count back, negative 8, negative 9, and going to the right we have negative 6 and negative 5. Okay, closed circle at negative 7, and n is greater than, so we're going to go to the right. All right, number 3, we have negative 6 and 4/10 is greater than or equal to w divided by 5. So this time the inverse would be multiplying by 5 on each side. So on the right-hand side, we're left with 1w. And on the left-hand side, we need to figure out negative 6 and 4/10 multiplied by 5. Okay, we're going to move our decimal over one place, and a negative multiplied by a positive is negative. So we get negative 32 is greater than or equal to w. Okay, when you have your variable on the right-hand side, it's often helpful to rewrite it on the left. So if negative 32 is greater than or equal to w, then w is less than or equal to negative 32. Okay, so negative 32, negative 31, negative 30, negative 33, negative 34. We need a closed circle, and it is less than, so we're going to the left. Okay, yesterday we talked about when you would change your or flip your inequality symbol. Just because you have a negative somewhere in your problem does not necessarily mean that you flip it every time. Okay, it is only when you multiply or divide by a negative number on each side. So in the example we just saw, there was a negative in there, but it wasn't the number we were multiplying or dividing by, so we didn't need to flip it. For some of the upcoming examples, we will need to flip it when we multiply or divide by a negative number. Okay, so for example, we have p divided by negative 4 is less than 7. So on each side, I'm going to multiply by negative 4. You always multiply with the same sign, so that we have negative 4 divided by negative 4. We'll simplify to positive 1. So we have p, and we have negative 28. Since we multiplied by a negative number, okay, so the number on both sides that I put there is negative, that tells us to flip our inequality symbol. So p is greater than negative 28. So we have negative 28, negative 27, negative 26, negative 29, negative 30. This is an open circle going to the right. All right, number 8, we have x divided by negative 5 is less than or equal to negative 5. So my inverse operation would be to multiply by negative 5 on each side. Okay, so negative 5 divided by negative 5 is 1. We get 1x is less than or equal, and then a negative 5 multiplied by a negative 5 is positive 25. So x is less than or equal to positive 25. And actually this time, I forgot to do it, I need to flip my inequality symbol. So let me restate that x is greater than or equal to 25. So 25, 26, 27, 24, 23. Okay, closed circle going in the greater than direction. All right, number 8. Just like before, rewrite it so we have plenty of room to work it. So 1 is greater than or equal to negative 1/10 times z. Okay, we did learn about multiplying by the reciprocal earlier this year. Reciprocal means you just flip your fraction. So instead of negative 1/10, we would have negative 10 over 1. So if I put that in here, negative 10 over 1 on both sides, okay, you can see that negative 10, and I'll rewrite it over here, negative 10 over 1 times negative 1 over 10. Negative 10 times 1 is 10. 1 times 10 is 10. And 10 divided by 10 is 1. So this expression right here will simplify down to 1. So we get 1z is less than or equal to, and then we have negative 10 multiplied by 1, which is negative 10. And then again, we multiplied by a negative, so we need to flip the inequality symbol. So negative 10 is less than or equal to z, or z is greater than or equal to negative 10 if we write it with the variable first. So I have negative 10, negative 9, negative 8, negative 11, negative 12. Closed circle at negative 10 going to the right, pointing to the bigger numbers. All right, number 10. This time, negative 9 times m. The inverse operation would be to divide by negative 9 on each side. So we get 1m and negative 7, and since we divided by a negative, we need to flip the inequality symbol. So negative 7, negative 6, negative 5, negative 8, negative 9. We need an open circle going to the left, pointing to the smaller numbers. All right, next we're going to translate some words into symbols, and then we'll be able to solve. So it says the product of 5 and a number is greater than 20. Okay, product means answer to a multiplication problem. Okay, so we have 5 multiplied by a number, let's use n for a number, is greater than, that would be greater than symbol 20. So we have 5n is greater than 20. Okay, the inverse operation to isolate n would be to divide by 5 on each side. So we would get n is greater than 4. So we'll put 4, 5, 6, 3, 2. So we have open circle at 4 going in the greater than direction. All right, next example, the quotient of a number and 3 is at most 4. Quotient is answer to a division problem. So we are dividing a number divided by 3. Okay, the word at most means that it cannot be bigger than 4, but it could be exactly 4. So we would use the less than or equal symbol. Okay, and you could, I'll write it off to the side, you could write it n divided by 3 is less than or equal to 4. That would be okay, but it's a little bit easier to solve when we write it as a fraction. So I'm going to use it the first way. Okay, we're going to multiply by 3 on each side. Okay, so 3 divided by 3 is 1. 4 times 3 is 12. We didn't multiply by a negative, so we have n is less than or equal to 12. All right, this would be a closed circle at 12, pointing to all the numbers less than 12, so headed to the left. Okay, next, a number divided by 8 is less than negative 2. So a number divided by 8 is less than negative 2. So again, I could write that n divided by 8 using the fraction bar is less than negative 2. Okay, on each side, multiply by 8, multiply by 8. 8 divided by 8 is 1, so we get 1n. Negative 2 times 8 is negative 16, and we did not multiply by a negative. Even though we have a negative 2, the number we're multiplying by is positive, so we leave the symbol alone. So we've got negative 18, negative 17, negative 16, negative 15, negative 14. I need an open circle going to the left. All right, next up, 4 times a number is at least negative 12. So we have 4 times, which is multiplication, a number is at least means it could be bigger, it could be equal, but it can't be less. So at least would be greater than or equal, and then negative 12. So I can rewrite that 4n is greater than or equal to negative 12. Okay, we're going to divide by the coefficient, so divide by 4 on each side. N is greater than or equal to negative 3, and you don't flip the inequality because 4 is positive. So we have negative 5, negative 4, negative 3, negative 2, negative 1. Closed circle, n is greater than, so we would go to the right. All right, final examples, we're going to do some word problems. It says Calvin earns $9 per hour. Write, solve, and graph an inequality that represents the number of hours he needs to work to earn at least $333. I want you to start by defining your variables, which means tell me what variable you're going to use and tell me what it means. I need to know how many hours he needs to work. So let's let H represent the number of hours that he needs to work. Okay, if he makes $9 per hour, then we would multiply 9 times the number of hours, and that would tell us how much he would make. We need that to be at least $333. From before, at least means greater than or equal to. He could make more, he could make that exact amount, but he can't make less. So we have 9 times H equals $333. Okay, on each side we need to divide by 9. H is greater than or equal to, and then let's figure out 333 divided by 9 goes into 33 3 times. Subtract, we get 9 into 63 would be 7 times with nothing left over. So H is greater than or equal to 37. Now remember, H is the number of hours, so we would write 37 hours. And then on our graph, 37, 38, 39, 36, 35. So he couldn't work 35, he couldn't work 36, but he could work 37 or anything more than that to get his $333. All right, final example has to do with speed. It says the maximum speed of a jet is 600 miles per hour. So I'm going to say that the speed has to be less than or equal to 600 miles per hour. You cannot go over that for this particular jet. Okay, write and solve and graph an inequality to represent the number of hours it would take to travel 1,800 miles. Okay, so the amount of time that it takes is always going to be equal to, and actually I'm going to change this. We're going to write that the speed is equal to your rate multiplied by the time. So this is just in general, anytime you're finding your speed, it's rate multiplied by time. Okay, so we have our inequality that is less than or equal. The rate is exactly what it says above, so that's 600 miles per hour. And the amount of time that we have, we're not sure exactly what that is. So we can use a variable for that. So we can say time, t represents time. And then this is actually going to tell us the distance. Okay, so distance equals rate times time. Okay, so we have a rate of 600 miles per hour. Time is what we don't know, but the distance we do know is 1,800 miles. So in place of distance, we can put 1,800 miles. Okay, let's simplify this a little bit. 1,800 is less than or equal to 600 times time. Divide by 600 on each side. 1,800 divided by 600 is 3. So that tells us that it's going to take at least 3 hours. It could be greater than 3 hours. So t is greater than or equal to 3 hours. Okay, so on our graph we have 3, 4, 5, 2, 1. So closed circle at 3, and t is greater than. So it could take 4 or 5 hours because you could go slower. Maybe you're only traveling 500 miles per hour that day, or maybe it's really windy and you're only at 458 miles per hour or something like that. So at least 3 hours, that would be the minimum amount of time that it would take.